guys, Ron from Wild Better Fish USA. This is the FunctionBuilt-Aquatics edition of Wild Better Fish USA. Yes, FunctionBuilt-Aquatics. That's how our channel started in the very beginning, before we became more based on wild betta fish. And this tank right here has nothing to do with wild bettas, so we're going to talk about the South American Paludarium and the newly added Blue Tetras, a school of 18. These guys are about they're ranged anywhere between 1.5 inches to almost 1 3/4 inches or so in length. Like I said, I added 18 of these guys today. They're starting to utilize the water flow pretty good. So let's talk about some of the features of the tank. We'll get into the pleco, the gold nugget pleco, and how he's doing. The barbados cordoras, how they're doing, the bearded cories, and then of course the blue tetras. Let's go to the top and let's talk about the plants. This plant right here, though I do not know the actual name of it, I know one of my viewers will be able to tell me, has been in this system for exactly 2 years. I've trimmed it down quite a bit, so I kind of keep the growth somewhat in check. It does an amazing job of exporting nutrients out of the system. This is a dual filtration or triple filtration type setup. And we're going to talk about what that is and what I mean by that in about a second. But let's get back to the plant. Every now and then, as this plant starts to absorb enough water, of course, and nutrients, because it's planted directly into the clay balls, which are held in place by the foam formation, the roots penetrate all the way into the water via the clay balls as substrate. But every now and then I notice that we get little driplets of water that actually come off the tips of these leaves. That's pretty interesting. That's the plant shedding water as it absorbs nutrients. This plant's been growing on the pedestal overhang of the Kessel Amazon sun. And as far as I know, has probably done a really amazing job in exporting the nutrients as we spoke about earlier. We have some Bella palms, pothos, another piece of pothos, Bella palms. I picked up some riccia. I'm going to try to see if I can get this riccia to grow on the foam formation. I had to put the glass top on this tank because I was really concerned with these tetras leaping, but we'll take the glass top for this video because I want to get down and show you the difference in the actual water flow of this particular tank. So this is the spray bar discharging from the Eheim canister filter. I decided to add this unsightly air stone for now to help dissipate some of the CO2. Now this tank was running for years at a pH anywhere between 4.0 to 5.0. And of course I didn't want the pH to be that low in this setup, not only for the pleco, but also for these tetras. I wanted to try to get more towards the neutral base side, anywhere between 6.8 to 7.0. So as far as I'm concerned, so far so good in doing so. And the water flow itself, with the combination of the air stone, is helping dissipate the CO2, help naturally raise the pH. I also added some buffer to bring the KH to normal levels, since the KH was really so low from all the acid base and basically all the botanicals and the different humic acids that the botanicals add. I think in time they start to break down your KH, and if your KH isn't stable, you're going to have a hell of a time maintaining proper pH also. So I adjusted the KH, and I was able to get the pH at a perfect 6.8, and that seemed to have made the gold nugget pleco pretty happy. And this guy's been eating on this piece of cucumber pretty much all day. This is the first time I've actually had, so far so good, knock on wood, success with the species. I've struggled in the past and keep this species for a long period of time because a lot of my systems, the pH was just way too low for them. And I also think the water flow is also a big part of it. having the proper water flow for a lot of pleco species, since these guys do come from river environments, live in between the rocks and the wood, and they're used to water kind of flowing over them. You got to try to duplicate some of that water flow, bring that fresh oxygen to them. Also been doing water changes on this tank on a daily basis to maintain the stability until I feel like it can maintain the pH on its own. Let's talk about the triple stage filtration that I was talking about earlier. So let's start with number one. Number one, I like to use the plants to absorb and export nutrients. I mentioned that before. They do a really good job to do, in this type of paludarium setup. Number two, this tank has a really deep level, about 5 inches or so down, full of clay balls. Now, clay balls, though they're not extremely porous, as far as I'm concerned, can be beneficial in harboring bacteria on their surface, which will add in biological filtration. Sort of like your old school wet-dry filters used to be back in the day from some of your old reef enthusiasts from the mid to late 80s, when wet-dry filters were important, where you had the dry portion and the wet portion in the biological media. But with that being said, the clay balls, in my opinion, not only act as substrate, they leach, I should say, iron, since they're made of clay, in the water, which the plants utilize also, beneficial for the plants. And then they also become a sort of filter media. So that's one being the plant, two being the clay balls, and then number three, all your biological and mechanical filtration is being handled by my favorite workhorse filter of all time, the Eheim canister filter. And this particular one is the 2217. So this is the Eheim 2217 canister filter. This is cranking pretty much at about 90%. You can tell that the Blue Tetras really do like the water flow. So does the pleco, and the cories like it too. As soon as I cranked up that water flow and did a water change, the Barbados awarded me with a pretty cool clutch of eggs. Now, whether these guys hatch, we will see. I'm thinking that since now we have the pH more at a neutral level, and we got a nice amount of water flow, I'm thinking we might get lucky and maybe get these Barbados to actually hatch. And maybe we'll have some fry to be able to grow out. But let's see. Hopefully the Tetras don't eat the eggs. Hopefully the pleco doesn't eat the eggs. But I will tell you that if I have to sacrifice those eggs to have success with this gold nugget pleco, I'm willing to do that. So tonight I will put in a cube of bloodworms so the pleco can go down here and get his protein matter. Gold nugget plecos are more into a protein type of diet than they are more plant-based. So you have to make sure that they have a large amount of protein added to their diet. So we'll start with something as simple as bloodworms, then we'll go to blackworms, maybe some chopped up earthworms. I've tried some frozen prawn, thawed out frozen prawn. And what I'll do maybe next time, like where I stuck this cucumber, I put this cucumber at his favorite basking site, which is this piece of driftwood he's been basically sucking on for a little while. And when I did that, he went right to the cucumber. What I'll do is add a piece of shrimp right to that same location. So I'll bring the food to him, and he can feed on it at his will. And let's talk about the Blue Tetras. Now, these guys aren't showing the color that these guys are known for, but in time they will. You're starting to see some slight hues in them when they flicker from the light. Really nice schooling fish, very active. They seem to be handling the water flow really well, streamlined shape, and as far as I'm concerned, very sturdy. Never kept this particular tetra before. I'm excited to see what I can get out of them in the future. As far as possible tank mates for the Barbados, Blue Tetras and the Gold Nugget Pleco. I'm thinking about maybe adding a different type of corridor to this tank. And then maybe something else. I probably will steer clear of any more plecos. I know gold nuggets have a tendency to be very aggressive towards their own species. I just assume that they'll be the same to any related species, especially in a tank that's only about 30 inches long. Now, yes, once again, this tank barely holds about 20 gallons of water. So how I get away with maintaining, you're looking at about 23 fish in a tank this size, is by water changes, lots of strong filtration, and as far as I'm concerned, I'm creating one of those constant water flow type pools where you'll go in, you'll train, and the water's flowing right over you, and you're not really going anywhere. You're swimming in a basically stationary motion. I'm not really sure what that type of pool is considered, but I've created some of that in this tank where these fish, they don't have to go from one pane of the glass to the other. They could just sit in the middle of the tank, swim against the current, and feel like they've been swimming for days. And that's basically what I've been trying to recreate in this South American Paludarium. So this is Ron from Wild Better Fish USA, and this is the FunctionBuilt-Aquatics edition of Wild Better Fish USA. See ya.